have another request for a handicap space to be put on Main Street, and
That's
so
okay.
there will be more erosion of.
We have a lot more disabled people than people realize. If you have a loved one that has disabled, you realize that we don't have enough spots. All right, what's your pleasure,
I
council?
like the idea of the only only right-hand turn, but again, how's it get enforced? I mean, that's,
Like people
I go
pulling in
straight
the
across.
There
18.
you go straight across.
You're a brave man.
You go
All right, what
straight
y'all's
across.
y'all know the big mouth mayor's opinion. What do y'all want to do? I don't vote. Y'all make the motion.
I make a motion to eliminate one space.
All right. Is there a second to Mr. Miller's motion? Colonel Thomas, second it. Any further discussion?
Is there any, could we try the turn first to see how that works before you go eliminating an entire spot?
in efforts of the mayor, have we asked the Antique Mall? Let's ask and then tell.
Ask.
If we need to. Let's.
Bring it back to you next month.
But if you do a left turn, see, you still got to go across. A lot of people
Well,
do
I think-
Right turn only. Right turn only. That's how you eliminate
If
that.
I owned a business on Main Street, I would really love the parking spaces in front of it. So I would exhaust any other options first.
I'd err on the side of over disclosure on this situation.
I will.
And because in fairness, the mall, the Main Street Mall is one of the reasons why I asked, and you graciously found Kinston Forest students to staff the tavern and museum because they had said people were coming in, we want to go see the museum, and the Antique Mall was tired of saying it's closed.
I will
So-
speak to the property owners at the Antique Mall, the church, and the
That'd be a good
and the
idea.
residents. And if there's any particular blowback, I'll come back to
You withdraw that motion, Mr. Miller?
I was,
All right. Spirit of Christmas. Curb and gutter. Curb and gutter.
Curb and gutter. We'll be working on Virginia Avenue this spring, also on Second Street. There's some discussion about doing curb and gutter in front of the new apartment building down to Academy Avenue. I've gotten a mixed bag of responses from property owners, so we'll wait that one out, let them get a little more grading done and see how badly Mr. McCormick would like to have that curb and gutter in front of his
Would it
place.
just be on his side or across the street as well?
It would just be on his side, but there's a private property owner on the corner of Academy and Second.
Okay.
And it's not how much property you own; it's ownership of. So it has to be 2/3.
No, I don't think that, I think council reserves the right to override
A citizen appeal.
at all, yeah, and I
Gotcha.
can't remember if it's 75% or 80%. The Tessie had rewritten a ordinance, I'll bring a copy of it, but they've been unanimous recently, but this particular case, I don't think I have a unanimous vote. So it may take a council decision if Mr. McCormick wants to press the matter. If he does not want to press the matter, I don't know if I need any more
Let's not
evidence.
stick our heads out there if he.
Huh?
Let's not stick our heads out there if he doesn't
If he doesn't want to do it.
need that bad.
All right. And then Green Automotive requests a crosswalk.
Field had asked me about doing that, and we met at the committee, but we didn't make a recommendation. So we may need to wait another month. I don't think the world's.
If you're looking at crosswalks, I'd ask the committee this, and I think it's a viable request, but I also I've had some members of St. Luke's mention to me, it's not often, but it's a pretty big walk across the street there from that corner to Sea Park. And maybe some crosswalks at different places in town. Of course, we don't want to encourage jaywalking, but more crosswalks. Zach, you and I have discussed crosswalks before. Doesn't Main Street view them pedestrian friendly?
Yeah, they're very good downtown because they encourage pedestrian-friendly walkability, and it's a signal to also vehicles that it's a walkable district to slow down, be cautious for pedestrians and that kind of thing.
Let's look at maybe, I think the one at Green Automotive has merit. It would certainly be conducive, both sides of the street has business, but
Why don't we, when we have our consultant helping us with Brown Street, why don't we look at some crosswalks and what needs to be done differently? I kept hearing crosswalks all the time, but I think the crosswalk that had been brought to my attention would be doing like a brick crosswalk of some kind of a
Or to do one
textured.
downtown, if that ever happened, we'd ideally like to see it in the Broad Street intersections and the Elm Street intersections, but brick is the nicest way to go, but the semi-truck traffic was the worry if you wear down.
right.
We like the brick better than painting every couple of years.
Sure. And I'll tell you one other location to consider is, and this, not trying to play favorites on restaurants, but when it's busy downtown, especially at night, a lot of people park on the west side of Main Street that are either walking to Farmer's Cafe or Acapulco's in the middle of that block between Maple and Elm. That might be a location.
Well,
But I think,
consider
I
all
mean,
the-
I'm not a traffic consultant, obviously, but if you have a crosswalk,
Dress like one.
shouldn't you have, shouldn't you have an actual signaling device like all of our other streets? So if we put one up at St. Luke's,
In
we
order
need
to
a.
enforce it, I think there's gonna be a standard. It's not just paint in the
Right.
street. I think
Correct.
in order to be enforced and be a.
got a little button on the pole or something.
There's gonna have to be either lighting or signage or something like that declaring it as a.
Which we have them on every intersection in downtown.
We do.
or I say every, what is it?
Just
3 of
about,
them, 4
just
of them.
about.
So,
You get the,
yeah.
We'd ask the committee to look, when we talk to VDOT, look at locations for crosswalks. Very good. You had one other issue?
Community Exxon, there's a ditch there behind Community Exxon.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah.
And I think the property owner's concerned about kids or somebody going into the ditch. If you remember when we cleaned out that portion of the ditch to take the obstructions out of the creek because it was causing surcharge back at the church's property, we did put up a post fence around that portion. We cleaned it out, we took the trees out. And the committee has asked if I can go back in there and extend that fence on down the creek. Not, I don't think we got the room to do the big post, but it'd have to be something more like a 4x4 post. Would make
Can
it
we
bigger.
not wait until we do that? I mean, we're getting ready to dig up that whole area because of
We're
that
gonna dig
ditch.
that whole area up, and I intended on doing that in the summer. I think the cost estimates have started to increase somewhat, so I may have to wait till 2021. So it's gonna be 2 years, I think, before we finish the project.
I mean, I hate to sound monotonous, but is the kid issue our issue? I mean, we don't want anyone hurt. Don't
Does not
take that
belong
wrong.
to the town.
I mean,
The
we,
town had an alley there, or an old street, believe it or not,
It most certainly did.
and it was vacated years ago.
Yep.
We found a copy of the vacation, so it's not a town street per se. It used to be. I can't remember the name of it.
just don't want to be putting fences up on someone's property and then I come up, I want to fence down my creek too.
Yeah. Let's continue to explore and not spend.
Moving forward.
Health and Ordinance Committee, that's Mr. Jones's committee, and we talked about the referendum, that's taken care of. Item 2, I don't know if Mr. Norbeck or Ms. Jones, whichever wants to,
Historic Business District.
the churches.
It was tabled. We had a lot of items on the agenda that night. I think there's differing opinions. Some folks think that that's a very encouraging way to get people involved in downtown. I don't know if the downtown professionals share that assessment, and we'll come back with it. But right now, churches are permissible by right in the business general district. So I think we'll come back and revisit it. The committee will.
This is about HBD, this is not saying no churches in the business zone, this would be something basically between the old Pizza Hut and Swartz Tavern, more or less. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm someone that needs to go to church more than I do. But I will say, I share the Main Street situation where, you know, every church is different, but if you have a large storefront and it's occupied by a business that doesn't meet but once or maybe twice a week, and one of those days is Sunday when the only place is open a restaurant, I don't know if it's conducive to the overall Main Street.
I don't think it meets.
God
the
bless
goals of the
churches, I'm not anti-church, I belong to a church, but I do think this is right now times are good, and Zach, what do we got, 5 empty storefronts downtown? The all-time low.
6, but it's a building that's still
I,
out.
I agree that they shouldn't be downtown, but also you gotta look at it if, say the one we're talking now that's, been purchased recently by a church, that building would still be for sale. So we would be hurting our own merchant who was trying to sell the building.
True.
And they wouldn't have sold the building.
It's 2 ways to look at it for
So-
sure. But here's what my point is this. 2006, we had, it was about 19 empty storefronts downtown. And if you get a depressed economy and buildings are starting going cheap, and you have 4 or 5 big, large churches there that meet, you know, Sundays and maybe Wednesdays, that also eliminates the potential for tax contributing properties in the district. Now, this church that bought Candy's building, what I hear, they're going to kind of be the best of both worlds, active congregation and maybe a little business interest up front.
That's what I understand.
So but I do think it's something the council needs to kind of look at pretty quick.
I will tell you, they're pouring concrete tomorrow, so there'll be some traffic disruptions in that block tomorrow morning. It's scheduled for tomorrow morning. I know we got rain and that sort of thing, but the contractor working on the building is supposed to be pouring concrete from the front. The Main Street could be a little congested
You're saying the concrete truck will be parked
in front of the building.
where the issue is already.
Joe, let me ask you this, I'm not trying to like drive the train here, but sometimes I do. What would be wrong with the council having a public hearing on what the people think about not grandfathering, not allowing any more churches in the HBD?
We can draw up a public hearing and an ordinance,
Just to gauge it,
have it that
because,
way and see what everybody says.
I mean, I just think when in doubt, let the people speak.
Do we want to go ahead and have a referendum too?
No referendum. Amen, Brother Nash.
Let's go ahead. Let them draw up a public hearing.
All right, moving right along, property liens.
And we'll do that. We'll drop a draft ordinance and advertise.
We'll have every preacher in town.
Property liens, right
Sinful
now,
mayor.
the town does not charge interest on its liens, and I think the committee, maybe because of at my behest, because I'm a curb and gutter advocate, and I've asked to leave the policy alone, and the committee did agree to, at this time, leave it alone. But we did include what other communities do. And it's a mixed
interesting.
bag. Some communities pay 100%, some pay a portion, some charge interest, and
I think some of them are 7.5%. It's crazy.
And some say you have to pay up front,
upfront. Yeah,
which in Blackstone, you would not do curb and gutter.
there would be none.
That'd be very little. All right, no action needed on that. We're gonna keep the property lien policies as is. Blight, the blight ordinance.
This is something that kind of started with the mayor, City of Petersburg, doing some things, trying to figure out ways to clean up blighted properties. I don't think we're having too much trouble. We're pretty good at getting a house torn down and doing that sort of thing, but for overgrown, the only thing on the books, if you remember, was harborage of snakes. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And so that was so subjective, and Tessie was like, we have to have a herpetologist. Yeah, we need something a little different. So I think the mayor is onto something and coming up with maybe a little more toothy blight ordinance, not
It doesn't have to be grass. It can be.
jungle
Yeah.
wisteria or whatever it is, yeah.
It's a tough call, but Petersburg is, it's on its knees, and the Petersburg's, fighting back. But we don't wanna wait to the point we get on our knees.
We need to, address a couple of things. There's a couple of properties in town. There's one on Northwest Avenue as well that's causing
All right.
neighbors some concern. All right.
And the town lateral policy?
I will draft up a revision and bring that to council. Basically doing what we already do, which is the town will take responsibility for paving back any sewer or lateral or water trenches that are put in. We do that anyhow, because it takes so long, quite
just
frankly, to
codifying.
get asphalt, we'll codify it.
Very good. Any questions about the Health and Ordinance Committee? Moving right along to the Airport and Transportation Committee, very brief report. Got a maintenance building you wanna build?
There is a set of drawings in there. We have a current maintenance building, and sadly, the termites have taken a good portion of it away. We did buy a new tractor and new apparatus for that tractor, and I'm asking authorization to seek bids for the replacement of that building. That we're going to do the interior. Our guys will do the framing on the inside. They will do the wiring. They'll do the mechanical. There'll be no plumbing.
Structure.
This is the 4 walls and the roof, and we're gonna do an addendum on the slab because the slab has some pretty appreciable cracks in it. But our original plan is, based on money, is to leave the slab and then rebuild the building after that. And we're seeking authorization to seek bids, and that is the little drawing for the building.
I'd entertain, Mr. Miller, you had a question?
I got a question. This S. Walker Construction,
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of perturbed with S. Walker Construction because I left out of my house Friday night and I backed out of my yard and I didn't know what was, I heard a bump. So I ain't paying no attention. I went, came back, and I noticed it was hard for me to get in my driveway. So I get out my car and there's a hole, that Jeep, in front of my yard. Now, they had passed the patch last week and going back, and if you look up the street, anybody can take a look, it's cracking all up the street.
It is. There's no doubt.
So I was just wondering, is he the only man we deal with or?
Well,
He wins
I
the
think
bids.
Andre went back and took a look at everything today, and when we
Yeah.
discussed it, he went up there and we got the millings and put in the hole. I think Andre's opinion was actually the sewer contractor, the trench under above the sewer line
Didn't tamp it or?
didn't get to.
Yeah, right. There's a sewer line that runs parallel that. It's probably.
There's no
3
use
feet
between it
long.
today.
Yes.
So, yes, they need to fix it. Yes, B&B knows about it. Yes, they are obligated before we pay our 5% retainages out. We don't owe those contractors very much. In fact, Jason has made a pay request except for a retainage, which is about $37,000. So
Yeah,
we're
does
holding
this,
that.
if obviously we're hearing correctly that it was a sewer issue that caused S. Walker's problem, does the retainage come out of Harmon Saunders instead of S. Walker?
I believe we would take the position of coming out of Harmon Saunders based on.
I hope so.
And also, a neighbor reported to me today, in which I saw it, he's got a sinkhole in his yard that's puddles of water.
All typical, so everybody knows, we didn't pave that road fancy, because I knew these kinds of, man, we crossed that road, I bet you with water and sewer lines 30 times, 35 times. Those lateral trenches settle.
Right.
And that's why we shot with tar and gravel, in part, because it's less expensive, and two, I couldn't get pavement that late in the year. I knew there were gonna be problems, I didn't think it would settle as much as it has, and it's specific to your neck of the woods. But there's other spots in there where you can see water standing. The plan is to come back in the spring, because I hope you will authorized me to enter into contract with do paving. We're gonna come back and do some paving.
So what about these people that has the problem with the yard?
Ain't no problem. What we need to do is go out and figure out what it is, make sure it's something legitimate that's applicable to the contractor, and the contractor can come back and fill it in.
Question.
I see a hand from South Harris Street.
What my ward leader just discussed about for this section of the plan. When y'all get this second grant or whatever we're gonna get,
Phase 2.
if we gonna have this same situation like he has, and the people on the Tappan Street, Brown Street have,
Probably, yes.
It's gonna happen. It's settling. The ground's gonna
Until
settle.
you get the full-fledged paving, you we go back in there with asphalt in the spring, maybe?
We would certainly do asphalt along the shoulders.
edges, on the shoulders.
And there's just no base in those roads. I mean, it's just,
But
not the answer now.
you're concerned that in phase 2 that this is
We
gonna,
don't want this problem.
It's gonna be.
it's gonna be.
But
That's
just don't do
settling.
it, just don't do it then.
you rather not do the project?
No, don't do it. If you don't know if you're gonna have this problem or not, don't do it.
No, I know you're gonna have the problem. It's not whether we're gonna have it.
You go down Brunswick right now.
Well, if council considers phase 2, there'll be a a public hearing process. And
Don't
we,
do it. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it.
anyone else on that committee? We got approved, do we approve
Need to
the
approve
construction?
the bids.
We need to approve, I need a motion to authorize the town manager to seek bids on building the maintenance building at the airport.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the Accountant and Finance Committee.
Accounting finance, we,
big
council
money.
agreed to put in $1 million into the VML VACO investment fund. We also received CD quotes at that time, and 2.6% was the going rate with VML VACO. We've hung in there, we made it a year. We're recommending that we go back and put another $1 million from VML VACO, take it out, because it's down under 2% now. And we're recommending to go and, we have a CD currently with Benchmark Bank at 2.58%, and we're allowed to add to that principal at any time. But that would expire in January of 2022, and then we gotta go back and look at the whole amount.
Which if you look at the VML VACO, we were still receiving 2.6% after you figure the unrealized
dividend.
gain.
You weren't losing any
We weren't
principal.
losing.
No.
But with the market fluctuating, we feel like it's best, and that's why, instead of us just putting it in a committee, Tom and I, we said, instead of us just adding it to what we have, we still need to solicit bids.
I
So-
agree.
So Philip went out and there are 3 bids.
Yeah,
So-
and they're very low. I mean, they're dramatically lower than the environment was a year ago.
I will just say, and again, I'll issue a disclaimer, I do serve on the board of Citizens Bank Trust, but at the time, Citizens Bank's offer was 2.60, and that money could be earning 2.60.
But I think if you look at what we've collected in the past year,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
exceeded
You have,
2.6
because it was
we
2.8. It was, when we first went in, it was 2.87, 2.84.
But I don't think that's gonna be the case.
It's not. I think Mr. Nash has made a good observation, and I got to give props to Benchmark. Their rate is 2.58, and that's you can't get. That's hard to get. And so this CD will be. You're taking out how much? 1.2 million.
1.227 is the exact figure, because that is the amount in the cemetery perpetual care fund and the $1 million that we put in from water and sewer and electric.
Right. And just to show you all how much the market's changed, Benchmark is graciously letting us add this to the existing CD, which is drawing 2.58. If we had to open a separate new CD with Benchmark, their rate would have been anywhere from 0.6% to 1.0%. That's not bad on Benchmark. Just tells you how interest rates are so low right now. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the high bid, the high interest bid. Mr. Thompson's moved.
Second.
Ms. Hasbrook is seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. What else under finance?
You guys may have been wondering why Ed Harris and Andre Hicks have so patiently stood here
I thought they just liked to come to council meetings.
here at my request. We are moving forward, it appears, with a project. The specific action for tonight would be to engage VML VACO as not to invest with them, but for them to assist us with an interim financing on our refinancing and new construction project that we're proposing, which includes the second phase of East End. Okay? USDA does require an interim financing piece, and if you remember, we've been paying $17,000 to a finance financial advisor Davenport, and they've done a great job. They're proposing to do very similar work for $4,500. And so I'm asking that council permit me to engage with VML VACO to provide the interim financing and to close the the deal with USDA.
I do entertain a motion. We're currently paying about 15 grand, 16 grand for the same service.
We have,
So move.
All right. Ms. Thompson's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Morgan is seconded. It's under $10,000. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
what we're proposing, and we talked a little bit in finance, the first action would be refinance the existing East End grant. Our loan that we borrowed $1.5 million. We're at 4.5% right now. And as we just talked about the interest rates coming down, we believe we'll be under 2% with USD on the refi. And then there are several construction activities, including replacing all of our water meters with a digital read. I hope I said that correctly, that those meters can be read remotely.
Okay.
Okay, there'll be water meter, we already do it with electric.
Right.
This will allow the water meters. Control panel for the sludge conveyor and the centrifuge. Nothing wrong with it, I can't say it's broken down, but the company that will not support it anymore, the computer boards will not be supported, and they've notified us that there will be no more support or maintenance for that particular product. Eliminate the chlorine gas disinfection. If we didn't, or if you didn't know, and I didn't know until some time ago, we still disinfect the wastewater at the wastewater plant with large chlorine gas cylinders. And one of those that were to break open is not a positive. It's really not the technology of, it's the technology of 1942, and we still use it. Ed has asked if we can change the disinfection, and now we go to a UV disinfection instead of a gas disinfection.
Ultraviolet?
Ultraviolet light.
Wow. What's the ballpark we're talking about here? This list of,
100 plus.
And the reason we also say this is a great thing, if we get, or when we get phase 2 of East End, as we did with the first phase of East End, we had to increase our water and sewer rates.
that's right.
And this, being that we're gonna get a lower rate, will offset that to now where we don't have to increase.
Plus you got a water sewer reserve too.
We've got the reserve. It's our expectation if we do those projects plus some valve replacements at the water plant, replace media and repair the diffusers at the water treatment plant. We're having some problems with the sand and anthracite filters. We believe we'll be able to do that work and the refi, and your payments will go down every year.
Wow.
Because of the length, because they go out to a 40-year term. But in addition, we hope that there's some grant money. These are all predicated on no grant monies. Last year, they provided up to 80% for this type of activity through USDA, but we're not budgeting for any grant money. And the interest rate was 1.75 last year.
But on this 40-year term, it's one of those deals where you can knock it down by paying over.
You can pay over.
Okay.
At any time.
No early payment penalty?
No early payment?
Beautiful.
If
All
you have
right.
any questions for Ed or Andre, they're here to support on any of those activities. If you have questions.
One thing I say is y'all keep up the great work y'all do, and I think I want to commend staff and you for, it's these little things, folks, that a lot of places around here just let things, don't think about, I never hear other governments talk about refi anything. But we have, there's no telling how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we've saved refining over the last 8 years. I commend y'all for that.
I mean, the biggest thing I think is the safety for our employees when it comes, you said the chlorine
sir.
gas. I mean, that's huge.
When you go in there, there's breathing apparatus and that sort of thing, and we don't.
And then saving on manpower, instead of having to go around on golf carts to read water meters, now we can just ride around and it picks them all up.
Just make sure we have some chlorine left for Peanut's pool. Just kidding.
3 days of water meter for 2 people becomes 3 hours, 1 guy.
Of riding around.
All right, you need a motion for council, or that's just
You
information?
gave me what I needed to get started with you, Mount Vaco, but I want you to know our expectation is to refi and to do the construction and ultimately get your payments less than what they are now.
Can you explain, just since you're talking about water and sewer, and it's not anything to do with the county finance, the surveying that's been done on Lunenburg Avenue? I've had a lot of people.
It's on the agenda if you'd like,
Oh, it
or
is.
I can
That's later on.
accelerate it
We'll
if you'd
do it
like.
when we get there. No.
You want to talk about it while Andre?
I think let's go and knock it out so they can go. We've got a proposal in the packet to build a new water line between
8th and 10th on Lunenburg Avenue. We take two complaints of water quality, one at the Kyle residence and the other at the Martha and Keynes. And, the engineers will come back, well, if you try this and do this and flush it, I think we're just putting lipstick on a pig. It's an old water line. I think it was intended. I think Larry had started some water line down 10th Street in front of where your house is, and those connections were intended to be made, and I guess it just didn't happen. We believe they're 1950s or 1960s era water line, cast iron. And there's one way to exercise the problem, and that's to cut out the cancer and we're $100,000+ to do it.
Just
I
to
thought
do
it was
those
80.
two blocks,
100,000?
With engineering, yeah.
Okay.
those 2 blocks.
And just so y'all know, this is not something that all of a sudden we decided we're gonna do a water line. The Kyles in particular have been coming to me. They replace a filter every 5 or 6 weeks, and they've shown me the filter, and it's unreal.
It's rusty,
It's,
yeah,
it's full of, it looks like red clay.
it's rusty.
It's rust.
So we're asking authorization to proceed with seeking bids.
All right.
I've already got the engineer doing the drawings and plans. I'm just asking the council authorize us to put it on the street.
Do the contractors look at the estimated total prior?
Yeah, I always estimate low.
The engineer does usually come up with an engineer's estimate.
I mean,
and
to me,
variably,
that does seem high for striking a water line 2 blocks.
I'm going on what they said. If it's less, promise me, we're gonna.
I do entertain a motion to authorize the town manager to seek bids on the water line between 8th and 10th Streets along Lunenburg Avenue, on the east side of Lunenburg Avenue.
West side of Lunenburg.
It's the west?
Yeah, it's on the west
Okay, so
side.
it's on the
It's on.
Kent
it's coming
Carlisle
to the
side. Okay, all right. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved. Mr. Jones has seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And then you've got a report on a Tobacco Commission grant.
I would like to,
It's a pretty big deal, folks, what's coming up.
everybody at your table, you've been provided with a copy of a press release. And it's got a picture of UMAC on the front page. And they've been working for about 8 months a year with a particular group, and they are announcing themselves as the Callion Group. And that Callion Group already owns several hotels with more under construction. They have 2 in the region. It is their intention to acquire ViewMac and turn it into a 100-room boutique hotel. They have applied for rezoning under the name CRDR Holdings, which may be a site-specific LC. We're really excited about them. They do have a facility in Farmville and also one in Prince George County, I think at Fort Lee. What we're asking for tonight would be the authorization to apply on their behalf through the county on the tobacco side for loan money, as Carthen Kearns Group requested and received a $5 million non-recourse loan guarantee from the Tobacco Commission. They're asking for that also to be the case, and they're asking that the town apply on their behalf for industrial revitalization funds from the Department of Housing and Community Development,
That's 600,000 that.
capped at $600,000.
Do we have to we don't have to have a public hearing for this? I think we have to have a public hearing to accept it probably. I think we had a hearing for DMAC, I
There will
thought.
be a public hearing because the zoning still is
That's
public
right,
open
that's right,
space,
that's
so you'll
right.
have a town council
Gotcha,
public hearing.
gotcha. Members of council, this is phenomenal news. What, you said they had a hotel in Farmville, which one, do you know?
Hilton.
Hilton, okay. This is,
Very impressive people. To this point, I've been impressed with them. They, when they say they're gonna do, when they say they're gonna show up, they show up. They're serious folks, and I don't think they have time to waste a lot of money. I think they want.
Well, we've been wanting a hotel, and I can tell you, we had originally discussed, obviously at Nottaway Commons, but, I mean, this is even better, because it's in town, it's in a building right now that's dilapidated and going down fast, so.
I make a motion to.
Make the
what you
two
just stated.
applications.
Yes.
Second.
motion made by Ms. Jones, seconded by Mr. Miller. And you and all in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Great news. And you anticipate a public hearing by the Planning Commission and Town Council in January? on
January
rezone?
13th has already been scheduled.
Okay.
This will come before the planning commission to be handled as a conditional rezoning. He has made a list of the certain specific activities. Hotels are allowed by right in a business general district. We didn't want to open it up for a gas station for logical reasons in a residential area. So he's made a list of the activities. It's a hotel, it's a restaurant, it is a potential movie theater, a gift shop associated with the hotel, and a craft beer brewery and tap room.
The home of, the Prohibition movement was once based there.
You find something to do with these water tanks.
Times they are changing.
And explaining,
Like you did done for Mr.
doesn't matter so much, but explaining which properties are included and which aren't. Because it's not everything.
The request on that
Very
side of
important, very important.
on that side of the road, you have about 25 total acres, okay? The request will be for 11.6 acres, I think it is, and that'll include Goodson Lodge, it'll include the main building, the frontage on 4th Street, but it does not include a pie-shaped cutout for the gables. The gables is not part of this rezoning request, and it does not include property to the rear. You know where our sewer line is in front of where Eddie lives? It doesn't include much of that open field, and it doesn't include the frontage on College Avenue.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
So is the rezone gonna be about 15 acres?
11.6.
11, okay.
Is being rezoned and about 15 left or 14.
Good news, folks, good news. We vote on that motion? Okay, 7-0, all right. And you had, oh, that's it. Moving right along to, what's next on the agenda, folks? Employment and Police Committee, a change in the definition or the vacation leave.
We're gonna let Brittany make a presentation as Ms. Hardy is not with us tonight for a
Yes.
sick child.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
Treasurer Pro Tem Harris is going to present also under Account and Finance the last sheet after the minutes about the rates for the credit cards. She's gonna present that for us before we.
Yeah, I think we should do that, because this is an issue I hear a lot about, and paying with credit card at town hall, go ahead.
Right, so for utility tax transactions, not DMV, they have their own separate card machine. Right now we use a site called Express Pay to take all card payments. One, they charge a fee of 2.85% on any transaction and a 49 site fee, no matter if you're paying $5 or $500, everybody gets charged the same rate. The main problem me and Jennifer are having is trying to reconcile them to our bank account and the Bright system that we use. They switched merchant providers, I think maybe the middle of this year, and ever since then we have not been able to reconcile easily. We're sending it to Sheila, the accountant that we use, that Jennifer uses, to reconcile it, and it should be something that I should be able to do very easily. So ever since they changed, I've had a problem doing that. So I reached out to Town of Cruz, Citizens Bank, and Benchmark, and they all referred me to a company called Atlantic Merchant. Right now with Express Pay, we're not in a contract. We pay $10 a month, and we can cancel at any time. With Atlantic Merchant, it would be a month-to-month contract. It'd be $12 per month, and I could cancel any time. With them, they use something called an intelligence system to determine how much the customer is going to be charged. So if you have just a regular debit card, just, regular BB&T bank account, you'll probably be charged 1% for what you're paying, which is what most customers use. But if you have like an American Express Business Rewards card, you can be charged up to 3.75%. But most of our customers use just regular debit cards. We very rarely will have anyone charge that higher amount.
So they would see there, right now, instead of paying
They
2.85%,
probably pay 1%.
so they would see, okay,
Yeah,
very
it'd be a
good.
big reduction in cost for the customer.
So does it automatically figure that for you? If I walk up with American Express,
We'll put in the card number. It goes by the card. So if you have a card that has a lot of rewards on it, then you're going to pay more.
You pay for your rewards.
Right, you pay for your rewards, so it's going to charge you more. But just a regular debit card, you're going to get charged, and it can be as low as 0.75%.
Very good. From time to time on social media, that evolves the issues.
And you
Okay.
can still pay online. And another thing, if you go to pay online now with Express Pay, there's no option other than utility bill. So people call all the time, they're like, well, I want to pay my taxes online, but they can't. With the Atlantic Merchant, we can put any options we want online. So people can pay utility deposits, taxes, anything. And there'll be no confusion of where the payment needs to go.
I would entertain a motion to authorize staff to abandon Express Pay as soon as possible and pursue Atlantic Merchant. Motion been made.
February 1st, I think.
February 1st?
Yeah.
Motion's been made. We'll get the motion. Mr. Miller, Mr. Nash seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have a change in the attendance policy for the town of Blackstone employees. Attendance.
Yes, Jennifer found this policy, so I'm going to do the best I can.
Jennifer Hardy.
Jennifer Hardy, yes, not Daniel. Right now, our policy states, if someone is a habitual offender and being, calling out or being absent, it's really up to the discretion of the department head or the town manager of, how we handle the situation as far as consequences, I guess. So we really just want something to hang our hat on if we have an habitual offender, if someone's constantly calling out or someone misses 2 or 3 days of work. Right now, the policy doesn't state whether they have to have a doctor's note, anything like that. So this policy basically states you can have 2 call-outs within a 30-day period. If you have a doctor's note, then they're not unexcused. They're considered an excused absence.
Right.
Let me see.
You're allowed 8.
8 within a year.
If I can just call in and say, hey, I'm not feeling it today.
Right, and
I'm
that
just not
happens,
feeling
yeah.
it today.
Right.
Twice I
But
can do.
that's one.
But you gotta
so-
give 48 hours.
But you have to give 48 hours notice.
Okay.
But if you do give 48 hours notice, then it's considered excused. But if you call at 7 in the morning, hey, I'm not coming in today, that's unexcused absence.
Twice, you can do that twice.
Twice within a month. So
Okay.
the first time you do it, you have twice within a month, it'll be a verbal warning.
Should've called
If it
in
happens
late.
again,
I got a question.
But so that seems kind of, I hear people talking twice in a month. It does seem kind of lenient, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, my question
do
is,
once, I don't care.
Mr. Miller has the floor. What's your question?
okay, you saying you got 2 per month, 8 per year. Okay, and you got 48 hours to call in. So, you would have to use annual leave, right? Because you can't program, unless you're going to the doctor,
Yeah, you'd
or
have
you
to
got a
use-
doctor's appointment. I can understand. But I can't call you 48 hours and
Right.
say, I'm not gonna be here tomorrow because I'm sick.
Right, right.
That's for doctor's appointments.
So that's just, yeah.
Okay.
And you can still, if you call in twice, you know, you call in, you wake up with a headache and you don't feel like coming in, you can use your sick time. And then I think after the first 2 of that month, then you get a,
So it's a verbal warning, and then if it happens again, it doesn't have to be the next month. If it happens again 3 months from now, it's a written warning. The third time, unpaid time off, day in the street, 3 days in the street. The fourth time is grounds for termination.
So here's an example of the real world, something that would have happened to me is that you wake up and all of a sudden you realize you forgot that you've agreed to go on your child's trip and you're going to be leaving town. And so obviously I haven't given you 48 hours notice, but I could call Dan and say, Dan, look, I'm sorry. I wouldn't be punished for that. I can do that twice in a month.
but that, you wouldn't really use sick leave for that, you would use a vacation day.
Right,
for that.
you
I'd have to
use
burn a
your
vacation day.
time.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So y'all's main thing is
Well,
the sick leave, right? That's what y'all trying to stop
This is for
abusing.
sick, yes.
Yes, this is, yeah.
Because people just decide, hey, you know, we know that people are here, we know somebody's gonna cover us, so we don't feel like coming in today, so we're not gonna do it.
So this is also seeking to take out the gray area, and all the department heads now have a firm and fast policy.
Right.
Okay, and have the employees been briefed on this? I know the department heads probably have been. How about rank and file employees?
Yeah, we've talked to,
Okay, all right.
Will presented it.
I saw a hand up with Janet Benell.
I'm just curious, but how much sick time, how much vacation time, and how many paid holidays do town employees get?
13 and a half paid holidays this coming year.
That's just state though.
That's just,
Okay, and then how many, and I know vacation is based on time.
Vacation, you can have up to 160.
It is capped.
That's 4 weeks.
It's capped at 160.
And then
Hours.
what is your sick time?
960, I believe.
I don't know if it's that
capped.
much, but
Yeah, it is 900.
960 on the sick leave, we don't compensate when an employee leaves the town's employed for any accumulated sick leave. That stays with the town whenever they depart.
Is it 960 hours of sick leave?
We cap it, you can't.
so you accrue, 8 hours
8
per
hours a
pay
month,
period.
per pay period.
Per pay period.
Of
Of
just
sick
sick
and
leave?
vacation.
Sick time, paid holidays.
It's been like that, it's like you want to
It's $8.
For the federal government, that's all, we got 8 hours a month.
It's capped at 960.
No, it's 8 hours
You get 8
a
hours a
month.
month, and see if you can take it, you just keep building up.
8 hours
How
a
many
month.
days is 9?
Yes, every other pay period, I'm sorry.
So, no, you will get vacation and sick.
100 days, 3 months,
16 hours a month.
100
The
days,
longer you've been here, the more it accrues.
110 days, something like
And
that.
then you get
Yeah, that's what it is, it's 110 days.
2 unexcused absences.
I see someone that's worked in government, Jim Hasbrook, you had a question?
Table of disciplinary penalties.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a,
That would be good. We're trying to eliminate gray area, and that'd be a logical step.
Well, everybody gets it from the jump, you know what to expect.
I appreciate that, Mr. Hasbrook. Do you need approval of this tonight? Do you want approval
I
tonight?
think, yes, because I think we want to start with January, because that's when the,
We wanna do a
The
calendar
employment
year.
committee did recommend approval. I did come to that meeting. I entertain a motion by council.
so moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve. It's a great place to work, and that's why we have great people working here. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
I have one more thing.
Okay.
So the current wording just needs to be changed for the overtime. Right now, the policy states that, an agency shall compensate an employee who is not exempt for all hours of work in excess of 8 in a day or 40 in a work week. We have other shifts other than 8-hour shifts, so we just need that to say 8, 10, or 12
Yeah,
hour
because
shifts.
the PD does 12.
Right, so it isn't just for 8-hour shift
Right.
employees, it's for all employees.
I'd authorize a motion, I'd entertain a motion to change that wording to reflect the practice.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and second to just change to add the 8, 10, and 12-hour shifts in a 40-hour work week. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I got a question.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
You know, I was talking to the town manager, right? You know, we don't really have a chain of command. You know, we bypass everybody, we go straight to the top. That's not working. Because before it gets to the top, this person done said that person done said that. We need to set up a chain of command where when an employee has a problem, he go through the first step, the second step, and then on up.
They're supposed to.
I thought
If
if I'm
any
an
of my
employee,
employees have a problem, they should come
No,
to me
it's
first.
not
but
happening.
They always.
but our personnel policy, which was adopted, and that was before you got on council, was very clear about the protocol. If I'm a sanitation employee, my complaint would go to the director of public works.
Dan.
Is that, am I wrong? I mean, that's policy. So what are you saying, Mr. Miller, just so I can understand, you saying that employees are going straight to Philip?
They're bypassing Philip and everybody else, and they go talk to you.
I've had one former employee talk to me.
I'm not talking. What I'm saying is, if you got a problem, Philip being in charge should know your problem before you go talk to anybody else.
I would agree with that.
You know, and this is not happening.
All right.
And
What
so
can we do to make that
I don't
happen?
know. I was going to talk to the people when we
Appointment.
get together the next time. We'll
Sounds
talk
like,
about
all right, well, when the employment committee discusses the loan policy, let's also have them discuss, we'll call it protocol chain of command.
You said
Plus, I
employment
think this would be a good
Employment
idea to
police.
start talking about the human resource position again to help with that.
I'm sorry, what's that, Mr.
Some of
Johnson?
the employees are scared of the repercussion that might happen if they go complain about things to certain people.
Like their job.
Yeah. They did tell us a certain
Don't get
thing
tied
they
down.
Yeah, we don't want to, all right,
Scared to say it.
your concerns are noted, and we're going to put that to the employment and police committee on protocol chain of command. And Mr. Morgan has made a point, and he's asked for this last time, about the possible position of a director of human resources. To take the load off the town manager, and I think a lot of times the finance director. All right, well, I'm gonna refer Mr. Morgan's desire for a director of human resources also to the employment police committee. And probably ought to give it a run by accounting finance after that.
It'll go in the budget,
right.
either way. so it
Correct,
would be-
correct. All right. Anything else you need, Madam Treasurer? Thank you so much. We have a consent agenda item for a Christmas lunch at Crenshaw.
Crenshaw's asking that the town bus, not the Babbitt bus, provide transportation for the residents of Clay's home to Crenshaw in order for them to participate in the Christmas
Clearly states
lunch.
Crenshaw will pay for any charges for their transport.
No.
I make a motion that we approve as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made, and this is at Clay's Assisted Living on Wednesday.
It's what the bus is for, and I want everybody in the community to start using it.
Amen. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I mean, obviously, we gotta pay for a driver, and it sounds like they're willing to pay for driver or whatever we need to.
We have one lined up.
Yeah, so it says here that Crenshaw will pay for any charges.
How many people can fit on that bus?
15?
That particular one is 21.
Oh.
21.
That's right. All right, moving right along to the Historic Business District Ordinance.
We're not asking for action on this, but we did look at the historic business district. As Jennifer was codifying our ordinances over the past several years, we sent them off to Michi Code to be put on the town's, I guess, website on the town code section. Any of the changes the council made. We looked at this thing, and it was immediately obvious that the addresses were incorrect that were included in the previous ordinance. We went and walked the entire downtown, and these reflect the correct addresses that have been assigned by 911 to all the businesses downtown.
So we just changed the addresses in the ordinance, not on people's houses.
We're not changing anybody's
Perfect,
address.
okay.
What we are asking is authorization to hold a public hearing, because this is a modification of the ordinance, but it is not changing the terms or conditions, nor the boundaries
Right.
Just the addresses. Now, we do have some areas on Dinwiddie Avenue. I think there's been some questions. There's some residential homes on Dinwiddie Avenue that are included in the historic district. And at the same time, if you'd like to take a look at those to see if you'd like to continue keeping those in the historic district.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to authorize the town staff to proceed with advertising this change.
So moved.
Mr. Morgan has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Miller has seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving right along, we have the Epps Street curb and gutter. Mr. Van Norbeck is requesting extending the curb and gutter in the grant project area.
In the grant project area, we extended curb and gutter on Broad and Tavern Streets. We took it off certain blocks and added it in other places. We added Viewbank Street. That was not originally in the budget. There is one street there that has actually homes fronting on, that's Epps Street between Tavern and Broad. It is in the project area. Some of the homes are slated for some sort of renovation from work. Mr. Nash had some questions last month what this would cost. It's approximately, and this is me just scaling, approximately 500-foot long block, okay, from the right-of-way of Tavern to the right-of-way of East Broad Street, 500 linear feet, $25 per linear foot is the half cost. It's the contract we have with Walker Construction right now is $50 a linear foot. And so the half to the property owner is $25. And the property owners in a typical transaction would be $12,500. And that would be divided about by how much frontage each individual property owner had.
Right.
As we did on Viewbank Street and added the curb and gutter, I'm asking the council authorize us to go ahead and put the curb and gutter on Epps Street as well. We didn't charge the folks on Viewbank Street, and I think in a matter of fairness, I would like to add that block. I can't say we're gonna do it immediately, but I would like to add that block onto into the project,
So the residents will be getting the curb and gutter free at no charge.
as they did on Viewbank and Tavern.
Okay.
Where will the 50 or 25,000 come from?
That will come out of your street allocation. It's already budgeted in our secondary streets,
You said it is budgeted?
This particular project?
not this particular project. I see where you're getting, but we have curb and gutter included in our secondary street line item.
There's nothing in the East End grant that has overages or anything?
There may be, we may be able to be reimbursed. We're asking for some reimbursement for some of these demolitions that where the cost has exceeded the $14,000 that was in the budget. They can do budget amendments, but I really want to get the housing done first before I try to whittle away on one of these larger projects.
Members of council, what's your pleasure? It would require a roll call vote if a motion is made because it's over $10,000. You try to,
Also move.
Mr. Miller has,
Second.
Mr. Miller has moved, Mr. Morgan has seconded. Any further discussion? This is to achieve consistency throughout the grant project area.
In all fairness, just so it's gonna be unfair to those that have to pay for their curb and gutter. Outside, well, it's in the grant area, but it was not including the grant. That's why I asked if there were any overages to pay for.
And I think that's a very wise,
So-
if there's any overage, find it. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
please. I mean,
Good at that.
Because it is right. All right, we'll have a roll call vote, starting with Colonel Wilkinson.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0. Heroes Committee, this is something I've been working on for Black History Month. I know that Ms. Jones has agreed to help, and Ms. Yvonne Wilson has agreed to help. The hour is late. Does anybody have any names they'd like to have to serve on a committee that would help us identify leaders in the black community in a variety of fields?
Mr. Hasbrook would be a good one, I believe.
You just got nominated.
You say Ms. or Mr.?
Mr.
I bet he'd be willing to serve.
Black Heroes.
We're trying to come up with a committee to recognize achievements in this community, in the black community. And Ms. Thompson's agreed to serve. All right, well, let's see, if we could get together and have a meeting soon, schedule a meeting in January, I'd appreciate that. Anybody else have any other names? All right, well, we've got a good group, and I'll be glad to help as well. It may be that we don't recognize, we may not pick honorees by February, but we can at least have the nomination process through February. I think it's important that we, yes.
Digging Black from Green Hill Church.
Okay. Cliff?
Yeah,
Cliff,
Cliff.
he would be, okay.
Yeah, I talked to him.
All right. Very good. I'm thinking educators, medicine, a variety of folks who've been educated here. Some live here, some have gone on and done great things. And we've just never recognized them. And it'd be nice to do it while they're still alive. Many have passed. Okay, well then if staff can set up a meeting in January, early January for that. The Lunenburg Avenue water line has been done, approved for bids. Ongoing projects, we're gonna roll through these. Mr. Van Norbeck.
Very quickly, we are going to kick off the proceedings and advertise in the local newspaper for the warehouse that is located on Tunstall Avenue that has collapsed. And we have received no response from the property owners. They did receive their certified letter. Their date to respond has expired. So we're going to proceed on with legal proceeding and try to hopefully get this before the circuit court judge to order demolition.
Removing, demolish and remove.
Very expensive.
You need a motion from council, or that's just informational?
I did informational.
Okay.
At 402 East Broad Street, which is in your neck of the woods, the contractors will be there removing the asbestos. The award was made to Rugby Environmental. Remove the asbestos on the property, a significant amount because of siding. Anytime there's asbestos siding, it goes up $4,600. Was his bid price to do it. He'll be doing it next Saturday and Sunday.
Bill, you still gonna use that route coming in behind Phillip Arms?
Phillip Arms has agreed that we could cross his property as long as it's not too muddy or too wet. 'Cause
Right.
it's got a little swale down there. We don't get stuck.
Don't make the ditch bigger.
Yeah, whatever.
It's already $100,000.
I didn't hear the D word, ditch.
That's
All right.
informational.
Nothing on meals tax is good. Item number 3, nothing to report. Item 4, I can report. Mr. Miller and I were at the school board meeting, as was Mr. Taylor, and the school board has delayed by 1 month the request by the town to demolish the buildings. Mr. Cleve Pettis asked the superintendent, was she sure that by declaring the building surplus, they don't revert to the county first? And Dr. Grimes twice has read the letter from the lawyer saying that because it's just the building, not the real estate, there's no problem. Mr. Pettis made an observation, which I think he may have some merit. He mentioned that computers in the past and cars, when they were surplus by the school division, went to the county. Now, of course, they're selling. Here, we're just removing, so.
I will tell you this, that process is specific to Nottaway County. There may be others, but in my experience, in Nottaway and other places, the school system has, and consistently and traditionally has had the authority to dispose of.
The supervisors are gonna weigh in Thursday, and I've been told they're trying to find an opinion. And perhaps trying to find an opinion that they agree with, but I think Mr. Miller will agree that the school board wants to grant the town's project permission to demolish the buildings. They just wanna make sure
The technicality.
checking with the county.
And we've got a big hurdle of where the money comes from to demolish it.
Correct, and I said this too, and and Mr. Pettis made a point. He said, you should have said that earlier. I've said, and Ms. Hinton has said the same thing. I think when you're talking about lighted field, I know we're not talking about lighted field at first, the neighbors need to be engaged in the process. But I think everybody's pro football and,
Before you move from Wigglesworth, what's the update on S. Walker starting third and going?
He told me middle of December, first week in December, I reported to you. I don't think he's gonna be here till after Christmas. Talked to him.
Ball season, or we be done?
The quote out of Jason Walker's mouth over the phone this past weekend was, by baseball season, I'll be out.
That's all I need to hear.
All right, very good. Number 5, utility upgrade project number 5. This is about the booster station at 10th Street at Pickett.
Moving forward.
Let's move forward. East End project, neighborhood, anything new to report?
No, but I will, nothing new, but we do have some bids back on some houses, and the Housing Rehab Board will be discussing no later than December 18th. We'll be responding on the bids for Mary Gregory and 100 Viewbank Street, Ms. Johnson at 108 Viewbank Street, and a Connie Glenn at 500 Tavern Street. And those would be the next 3 houses that would be taken on as all 3 renovations. None of those are slated for demo.
All right.
And the rehab board, again, will vote on that via email no later than the Wednesday the 18th.
All right. Moving right along, there's a good report on the rental property maintenance. Since April of 2019, we've had 40 inspections in Blackstone. 30 have passed, meaning 3/4 have passed. 25% have not passed. And we have 269 rental properties in Blackstone. So 40 have been inspected, which is about what we expected, really. We're trying to do about 25% of them every year. Would that be right? Where's Yvonne? Yeah, I mean, the reasonable goal was to try to do every 4 years, make sure we've gotten to everybody. And so we're on that pace. We're on that track.
Those that needed re-inspection, what were the typical items? Was it smoke detectors and stuff like that as we figured they would be, or?
That plus one, because most of them just have the smoke detectors, they end up getting done like the same week. So these are having other issues.
Wiring issues.
Have
So,
you
I mean, significant stuff, it's not,
We're not, there's not nitpicking
yeah, that's what I
stuff.
was looking for. It's not menial stuff to where it's just nitpicking. It's
No.
fairly decent.
The need to actually get, yes, for safety purposes.
Safety reasons.
Don't worry.
And the number for the 269 is, that's how many we have that have registered.
Oh, listen to
Still say
database.
there may be more, there are more rental properties,
feeling
but
there's
we have
a large
269 who have registered with the town.
The property, that is just south of, Mitchell's, across the street, there's the sidings, big chunk of siding out of that house. Is that part of the, is that a rental house, or is that
On Center Street?
on Main Street?
On South, I mean, on
Right
North
past the
Main.
church, I think is what she's
Just
talking
past
about.
the church, is that?
Past Deliverance through Jesus Christ
But
Church.
does the building inspector look at that? I don't know what they look at as to opposed to,
It seems an aesthetic issue.
That's more of a blight, quote unquote, blight issue than a,
Correct.
than
Oh,
a.
really? Okay.
That's what we're trying, that's the dilemma we're trying to take next. Is what's blight and when you get involved in it. When you say, hey, Miss Jones, your house needs painting. That's the stuff that's just tough.
but it needs to be done.
He's not talking about you, Miss Jones.
Not you, Miss Jones, I'm sorry. No, thank you for that clarification, Madam Clerk. Save me again.
Oh, I knew you wasn't.
Mrs. Smith. Anything else? Let's see, moving on. Weatherization.
Weatherization bids were also received on the 9th, for 518 Center Street. And recommendation, will be submitted to the rehab board by Wednesday. And then our next management team meeting will take place in January.
Okay. Any questions of Yvonne?
Thank you for all your hard work.
She's on next thing.
The big one's coming up. Well, there's two other ones coming. The new homeowners program, item number 9.
We're just announcing, and Yvonne can tell you more details, but Yvonne has gotten herself certified, if I'm not mistaken, as a housing counselor. And it is our intention now to move forward with expanding a homeowners program where we can actually build homes and get them financed and help people actually buy homes in the town of Blackman. Not just necessarily rehabbing them, but building new homes. Somewhat similar to what we did at Castle Trail Park, but we'd like to do it townwide. And, in doing so, if you remember, we paid $4,500 and Earl Howerton paid $4,500 to buy a piece of property on Broad Street and tear down our own messy looking house. In addition, Earl has also purchased 2 other properties on the east end at tax sale, one of them being on Broad Street and the other one being on Viewbank Street. It is our intention to do homeownership programs on both those lots.
Very good.
Plus we got the Tucker's lot too, that's,
The Tucker lot that we have down the end of Broad Street, so there'd be 3 available properties to start with. And it just so happens all of them are in East End.
it's
So-
four. It'll be 4.
Okay, we bought Tucker. We bought Jones.
Right, and then you bought the house up there on Broad, you bought 2, well, Earl bought that property on Broad Street.
Vacant
And
lot.
then vacant lot, we got demo, so we got 4, really. It's pretty cool.
All right. And moving right along, we're talking about the draft comprehensive plan, something that's we've been talking about it, and we're gonna have a meeting.
This season, we said we were gonna have one of these done.
January 13th, we're gonna receive a draft comprehensive plan.
January 13th will be the draft comprehensive land presentation. Josh and his staff at the bus shop are helping out with this.
Okay.
And it allows Yvonne to focus on housing and community development. Josh will hold the first public hearing with the planning commission. In addition, we'll have VMAC on that night and maybe another matter on top of it.
Big night. It's a big night. Very good. Very good. You studied that. You studied planning at Tech, didn't you?
I did political science.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
Studying planning now.
On the job training.
That's right. On new business, we have taken care of number 1 on the Second Amendment. Thank you for your indulgence on that issue. And then we have tax sale. We got some issues with some tax sales not bringing enough proceeds to pay our expenses.
Which is typical.
You see a letter from Jim Elliott. The first 2 properties we just talked about, one of them is Gracie Jones's property there on Viewbank Street, and the second one is owned by Dove's Homes, and that's on Broad Street. They were both the sales. Those are the 2 properties that Earl Howard and with Southside Outreach Group actually was the high bidder on. Those 2 properties are tax sale, and if you read Mr. Elliott's letter, both of those are bringing enough to cover the expenses in the property. The problem comes in on Dillard Street, 507 Dillard Street. It is a haunted house, man. That thing has been tough. It's been sold at tax sales, and people didn't record. If you remember, Tessie had a conflict of interest because she had represented some of the family. It was a mess. If you remember, there was a really bad house on that piece of property. There was a trailer with a house built around the front of it, and it was loaded with asbestos.
Red.
It was red, a red cinder block house, if you remember.
Tried
That
to get him
really
not to
bad
buy that
trailer.
house. I tried to get him not to buy it when we was up there. I
There's
told
an
him I said,
individual
don't buy it.
who was a high bidder. I think he paid or offered $900 for that property. The $900 will not cover the expenses, but I don't think Mr. Elliott's letter went far enough. We have filed a lien for the demolition of that house, and that's an additional $10,000.
So if we accept the bid of $900, we're basically foregoing $10,700 that's owed us.
You're gonna eat that lien.
Remember, why I state that we don't just tear houses down just for the heck of it, because we may not, very likely, may not ever get it.
Right.
And
I'd say the majority you won't.
Now, we would be crazy if we didn't forgive it, because then it'll just be it'll never get sold. So, I mean,
And it also includes grass bills too, because
Correct.
our contractor's been cutting it for.
So all the work you've done will basically be moot by accepting this bid of $900. But the alternative is it's not going to be on the, we need it on the tax roll.
Won't be on tax rolls. And then
Is
more
that-
taxes will get delinquent.
Is this person legitimate and they gonna do something with the property?
Yeah, local.
He lives in Blackstone.
From the
I mean,
neighbor.
Yeah, from the area. I'd entertain a motion by council. What's your
move
pleasure?
that we accept whatever we can get out of the properties and waive what's remaining and get some new ownership.
Is there, all right, Ms. Thompson is seconding Mr. Nash's motion. Any further discussion? Due to the nature of the amount of money we're kind of writing off, I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Colonel Wilkins.
Aye.
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 That motion carries 7-0. Under new business, item number 3, we have a resolution regarding a skid loader and,
We have two resolutions
car.
before you. One is for a skid steer. It was proposed, the purpose of the skid steer is to cut sewer right of ways. We can't get to them with the tractor. We bid them out sometimes in the past. We're just having a heck of a time keeping the sewer right of ways, specifically at Fort Pickett. A lot of trees growing on them, a lot of shrub, brush, all that sort of thing. This skid steer, as we specified, would have a forestry mulcher on the front. It would also come with a pavement milling machine or a zipper. If you guys are familiar, we have sewer cuts that stay sewer cuts through the winter months. You go to Oak Street, there's 2 or 3 of them down there. There's another one next to Green's Automotive. This would allow us to cut out the asphalt square and then put asphalt in just for doing patching, and also would be used for snow clearance. The reason we bring it to you ahead of time is twofold. The first of which is we were solicited, I guess, from Tara Delaney. She came to us and said, if we have money now, we would like you to accelerate. We weren't going to necessarily bring this to you tonight, but she says, please expedite your process, provide us a copy of it. We actually have already submitted the paperwork, but we're going to come back tonight and get the authorization. And second thing is, we're eligible, believe it or not, for Hurricane Michael funding from last October.
Yeah.
And we're still eligible, and they have a significant pool of money. We believe at a minimum, this project would garner a $50,000 grant. And we had initially thought about buying this with the 40-year USDA note, but I don't think amortizing something over 40 years necessarily that has a 15-year lifespan is a good idea. So we're asking this council authorize us to submit the application, because it may come back that we get nothing and then
it's a $157,000 piece of equipment,
With the attachments.
with the attachments.
which sounds like a really multifaceted machine. Very.
The town, I'm surprised, hasn't had one for decades. To be
But we are eligible. When we had guys working overtime at Hurricane Michael, we didn't have the big damage, but we had some limbs down. We had tree on houses that had in the middle of the night on Brunswick Avenue.
Station flooded.
Yeah.
The creek back there actually went above.
This is an actual insurance fund. This is just
FEMA.
This is additional FEMA grant monies that are available that people have not applied for or have not accessed.
I'd entertain a motion for the council and staff to pursue that which he has outlined.
so moved.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Nash's motion has been seconded by Mr. Miller.
Up to 157,000.
I have to ask for a roll call vote, starting with Colonel Tom.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0. And then we have a USDA police car.
This is to replace the one that was recently totaled. Okay, so it'll take some time, I suspect, to order a new car and that sort of thing. But again, we expect this to be about a $42,000 or $44,000 because I think the chief wants to go back with the SUV style.
The Fords.
Yeah, the Explorers or
Yeah,
whatever they're
okay.
driving now. I think the number is $44,000 a piece, and this will be eligible for a $25,000 grant. Remember, we've also received $10,000 in insurance proceeds for the total car, so the difference is all we would be talking about.
So altogether, if we get $35,000 back, we're not really out of it.
Nine.
Okay. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
Funds in the department, within the department to 9,000.
No, you'll have to do an appropriation for the extra $9,000. And that may be at the end of the year.
Right.
Or if the chief hasn't spent his budget down, then we'd say,
Correct.
but I don't think he's got 9,000 specified for this purpose.
Members of council, what's your pleasure?
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hasbrook is second. We gotta do another roll call because it's over 10 grand. Colonel Tom?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Motion carries 7-0. That's in the town code. We have no choice.
The public meeting for, for the resolutions, yes.
Want to announce that?
And please keep in mind, we've expedited this, got it on the agenda tonight, but we do have a 10-day advertising requirement prior to a public meeting, not a public hearing. And it doesn't have to be with council or advertised appropriately, but we have notified, put it on our website, we have advertised in the local newspaper, we've met the 10-day obligation, so on the 19th in this room, we will have a public meeting. Josh and I will be here to present this to the public. It's a statutory obligation that we do it, and we did not have the 10-day advertising window before this meeting tonight. So the 19th at 6, 7? 7 o'clock.
7.
Very good. You next have on new business number 5, a right-of-way easement for Southside Electric.
Southside Electric is requesting an easement. It's the water tank that's within Fast C, and if you look at the diagram, it's a pretty small little stretch. And the construction cost is estimated only at $132, if I'm not mistaken. So this isn't a big project, but they are requesting an easement to be granted in order for it to be valid. I do think council needs to approve.
Could we, bargain?
Good luck with that.
Tough group, man.
I do entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Nash, second by Ms. Hasbrook to approve the right-of-way easement. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 6, Mr. Van Orbeck.
We recently solicited and opened bids on November 25th for for surface treatment scheduled for the town. It's our expectation that we would be paving or surface treating those portions of the west end that are north of 4th Street, including 4th Street back to Church, from Main down to the Green Street, Green, Hardy, down to Hardy Street. And the low bidder this year was Whitehurst Paving. They'd had our contract for many years.
They did.
And then, believe it or not, I think Lanco forgot to turn their bid in. And wanted to know if he could send it in digitally, and that wouldn't, okay.
We only had one bidder, and that was $71,820.
But in good faith, it is less. It is less than last year's square yard price, which was over $2.
So you're talking about doing areas down 2nd and 3rd Street that were repaved. Didn't we just redo those?
No, I don't think he did all of them. We did some with the Church Street project about 3 or 4 years
Okay.
ago.
Where we had them come back and redo it because
It was pretty
there were
tough,
some
so
areas that were dicey.
we're gonna shoot it again. And, but that's the next area. If we go around by ward, if you remember, we did that big sewer project, and then we focused in Sam's district at the time, and then we would rotate around, and I think either Lee's district would be next, then Barbara, and Mr. Miller, we're trying to finish up to a degree now. And Christine, I think we did 2 years ago with that Ridge Road and that area, Maple Lane.
We need a motion to approve the only bid and the low bid, I guess you say, Whitehurst Paving at $71,820.
So moved.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call vote, starting with Colonel Wilkinson.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Asphalt patching is the next bids that we opened up. And remember, this is work that'll be conducted next summer.
Right.
We do it so far ahead of time because we try to compete with VDOT. We don't get bids because the contractors are hung up, so we got to do it way early in expectation. This is probably July, August, September when this work is typically going to be done.
And this, you had some competition on this. You had 2 bidders. You had Colony Construction at $251,200 and Southern Paving for $364,800.
Our recommendation to go with Colony. They also had our contract for many years, and last year did not get the contract. We Asphalt patching, again, the majority of what we're gonna do, I expect, is gonna be Dinwiddie Avenue from the corporate limits to Main Street.
Yeah, badly.
It's pretty tough over there, and we've been patching and
Big
patching and
trucks.
patching. We put that slurry seal down, and it hasn't helped. So it's our expectation to do Dinwiddie Avenue and Church Street. How do we do Church Street? Our cost estimate to do Church Street would be about $450,000, okay? And that's from the western corporate limits to Main Street. There is a state of good repair program with VDOT, okay? And the bid, or the grant applications is 100% grant for $451,000. It's actually a little more because we have to put the striping in, but the paving and milling, $451, and we did submit the paperwork on Friday in expectation for the meeting to be tonight, and that would be for Church Street from the western corporate limits to Main Street.
Wow.
If we are successful, that'd be 100% state money. It's called a State of Good Repair Project. I didn't even know we were eligible until our local assistance coordinator sent me an email, probably Wednesday or so, said, don't forget, you guys were included on the eligibility list. And so Allison Payne did a fantastic job and got the application put into the SMART portal. We're not obligated to accept if council chooses not to accept.
Now, people hear us talking that's 71,000 and then 251,000. How much do we get from VDOT each year for road?
$1,260,000.
I just want people to know that
Right.
we get this money from
Because our
VDOT.
population's over 3,500, this next census, cross your fingers.
We want to stay over 3,500.
We do. All right, so you need a motion to approve this low bid
Yes.
from Colony Construction?
So moved.
Motion been made by Mr. Nash, second by Colonel Tom. Roll call vote starting with Colonel Tom.
Aye.
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 I'm going to ask Josh to come to the podium.
Motion
Answer
carries
questions.
7-0. On streets, just two things if you can think of that just came to my mind. On Oak Street, at the three-way stop sign at Burt Street, could we add some good white paint? There's no stop bar
You
at
run right through
at either place. And also, when you come in under the underpass up here on the Maben underpass,
That's included in the.
it's like an earthquake hit. It's bubbled. It's just,
We anticipate after the last time we talked about it, we will mill that out, and we
Okay.
will go from Brown Street down beyond the Southwest Avenue intersection.
Very
If you
good.
look at it, it's rippling through there, it's slurry seal, and it's basically asphalt
traffic
parking
on it.
lot seal.
very good.
Stunk it up, it didn't look very good.
Is this, Josh, is this the annual grant for the bus system? Local share, what's it gonna be?
Well, I'd actually have a couple questions.
Okay,
for you guys.
sure.
So in your packet is a rough draft of what we're reasonably